The city was a labyrinth of brick and stone, a symphony of honking horns and distant sirens. It was a place where the old and new collided, where history whispered through the cracks in the pavement and the future roared in the form of speeding cars and bustling pedestrians. Elias, lost in his thoughts, wandered down a narrow alley he'd never noticed before. The alley seemed to beckon him, its entrance almost hidden between two towering buildings. He had walked these streets countless times, yet this path had always eluded him. It was a forgotten place, shrouded in shadows even as the sun dipped toward the horizon. The walls were covered in ivy and the ground was littered with fallen leaves, giving the alley an air of abandonment and mystery. The air grew unnaturally still, the city's symphony fading to a murmur. It was as if the alley existed in a different realm, separate from the chaos of the city. The only sound was the soft rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. He stopped, a strange pull drawing him forward. It was an inexplicable sensation, as if an invisible hand was guiding him. His heart raced with a mix of excitement and trepidation. At the alley's end, nestled between two crumbling brick walls, was a wrought iron gate. The gate seemed out of place, too grand for such a forgotten corner of the city. It was taller than a man, its metal twisted into the shape of intertwined vines and blooming night flowers. The craftsmanship was exquisite, each detail meticulously wrought, as if the gate was a piece of art rather than a mere barrier. A single lantern hung above the gate, casting an ethereal glow upon the cobblestones below. The light was soft and inviting, creating a stark contrast with the shadows that surrounded it. Elias reached for the latch, his fingers brushing against cool, unyielding iron. The metal was cold to the touch, sending a shiver down his spine. He hesitated for a moment, wondering if he should turn back. As if sensing his touch, the gate swung inward with a low groan. The sound echoed through the alley, adding to the sense of mystery and anticipation. The alley beyond was bathed in an otherworldly light, emanating from a structure at its far end. The light was mesmerizing, drawing Elias further into the unknown. It was a building unlike any Elias had ever seen, its architecture ancient and grand, yet seeming to shimmer like a mirage in the fading twilight. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings and the windows glowed with a soft, inviting light. Above its arched doorway, a name was etched in silver: the Moonlit Library. The letters seemed to sparkle in the dim light, adding to the sense of enchantment. Intrigued and more than a little apprehensive, Elias stepped through the gate. Each step felt like a journey into a different world, a world filled with secrets and possibilities. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of aged paper and leather. It was a comforting smell, reminiscent of old libraries and forgotten books. He was drawn forward, compelled by an unseen force toward the library and the promise of something extraordinary that lay within. The sense of anticipation was almost palpable, as if the very air was charged with magic and mystery. The Moonlit Library was a sanctuary of shadows and soft light, a place where time seemed to stand still, and the past whispered its secrets to those who dared to listen. As Elias stepped across the threshold, the heavy oak door closing silently behind him, he felt a tangible shift. It was as if he had crossed into another realm, leaving the mundane world behind and entering a space where magic and mystery reigned supreme. The city noises vanished, replaced by a hushed stillness that seemed to hum with a life of its own. The contrast was stark, the bustling chaos of the city giving way to an almost sacred silence that enveloped him completely. Towers of books rose around him, their leather spines whispering tales of forgotten lore. Each shelf seemed to stretch endlessly upwards, filled with volumes that promised knowledge and adventure. Dust motes danced in the beams of moonlight that slanted through the arched windows, illuminating rows upon rows of ancient volumes. The light created a mystical atmosphere, casting long shadows that seemed to move and shift as if alive. The air hung heavy with the scent of aged paper and a hint of something ancient and unknown. It was a smell that spoke of history, of countless stories waiting to be discovered and brought back to life. Elias ran his fingers along the spines of the books, their titles a mesmerizing tapestry of languages he couldn't decipher. Each touch seemed to connect him to the past, to the countless hands that had held these books before him. Each book seemed to pulse with an energy of its own, a silent chorus of stories yearning to be told. It was as if the library itself was alive, each book a heartbeat in its ancient body.
As he ventured deeper into the library's heart, the shelves grew taller, the ceiling disappearing into the shadows above. The deeper he went, the more he felt the weight of the knowledge contained within these walls. The silence was broken only by the gentle rustling of turning pages, as if the library itself was breathing, its ancient heart beating to a rhythm only it could hear. The sound was soothing, a reminder that he was not alone in this vast repository of wisdom. Elias felt a strange sense of peace settle over him, a feeling of coming home after a long and arduous journey. It was a peace that filled him with a quiet joy, a sense of belonging that he had never felt before. He had stumbled upon a place of power, a repository of knowledge beyond his wildest imaginings, and he knew with a certainty that defied logic that his life would never be the same. This library was not just a collection of books, it was a living, breathing entity, a guardian of secrets and stories that had the power to change the world.
In the heart of the Moonlit Library, beneath a chandelier that glittered like a constellation, sat a wizened old man. The library was a labyrinth of towering bookshelves, each filled with ancient tomes and scrolls that whispered secrets of the past. He was hunched over a massive tome, his long, white beard cascading down the front of his emerald green robe. The pages of the book seemed to glow faintly, as if imbued with a magic of their own. His eyes, when he finally looked up, were as green as the moss that clung to ancient stones, sharp and piercing, as if they could see straight into Elias's soul. The intensity of his gaze made Elias feel as though he was being weighed and measured.
"You seek knowledge, young one," the old man said, his voice a low rasp, like the rustling of parchment. His words seemed to echo through the vast library, reverberating off the walls lined with books. But knowledge is not freely given. It must be earned. The old man's expression grew serious, and the air around them seemed to thicken with the weight of his words.
Elias swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. "What must I do?" His voice trembled slightly, betraying his nervousness.
The old man smiled, a slow, unsettling curve of his lips. It was a smile that held secrets, a smile that promised both challenge and reward. "The truth you seek lies within the shadows," he said, gesturing toward a dusty corner of the library. The corner was shrouded in darkness, and the air seemed colder there. "Find the book, bound in moonlight, and solve the riddle it holds." The old man's voice was almost a whisper now, as if the very walls of the library were listening. "Only then will you begin to understand." The weight of the task ahead settled on Elias's shoulders, and he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation.
Elias hesitated for a moment, his mind racing with questions and doubts. The library seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his next move, then made his way to the shadowed corner. Each step felt heavy, as if the very floor was testing his resolve. There, nestled between two crumbling pillars, he found it. The book was bound in silver, its surface shimmering like moonlight on water. It seemed to pulse with a life of its own, as if it was waiting for him. As he touched it, the cover grew warm beneath his fingers, as if it held a life of its own. The warmth spread through his hand, filling him with a strange sense of connection to the book. He opened the book, his heart pounding in his chest, and began to read the poem within. The words seemed to dance on the page, forming a riddle that promised to unlock the secrets of the Moonlit Library.
The poem was written in a language I didn't recognize, but as I traced the words with my fingers, their meaning seemed to bloom in my mind. It spoke of a hidden chamber, a place of ancient power, and a glowing crystal that held the key to unlocking one's true potential. I read the poem 3 times, each word etching itself onto my memory. The words were like a map leading me toward a truth I could feel but not yet grasp. I knew I had to find this hidden chamber, this glowing crystal, but the poem offered more questions than answers.
The phrase "where the sun bids the moon goodbye" echoed in my mind. I knew it was a clue, but its meaning remained elusive. I paced the length of the library, my fingers drumming against the spines of the books, searching for an answer that felt tantalizingly out of reach. Then it struck me. The answer wasn't in the books themselves, but in the library's architecture. I needed to find the place where the sun's light touched the moon's glow, where day surrendered to night.
With a renewed sense of purpose, I set off to explore the library, my eyes searching for the clue that would lead me to the hidden chamber.
Elias's footsteps echoed through the silent library as he made his way toward the eastern wing. The air grew colder as he ventured deeper into this section, untouched by the moonlight that bathed the rest of the library in its ethereal glow. The shelves here were packed tightly together, their contents hidden in perpetual shadow. He ran his fingers along the spines, feeling for any irregularity, any hint of a hidden mechanism.
The poem had spoken of a hidden door, but how could I find it in this labyrinth of ancient texts?
His fingers brushed against something cold and metallic, concealed behind a particularly large volume bound in iron. As he pulled the book away, a cloud of dust billowed into the air, revealing a small, tarnished lever. He hesitated for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest, then pulled it down. A grinding sound echoed through the chamber as a section of the bookshelf swung inward, revealing a narrow passageway beyond. A musty smell wafted from within, hinting at long years of disuse.
Taking a deep breath, I stepped through the opening, the bookshelf swinging silently shut behind me, sealing me within the library's hidden heart.